Hey everybody, this is Steve. A lot of you might be watching this for the first time, so if you are, welcome. I used to do a series like this many years ago, and I kind of felt like starting it back up again. Just kind of going over like things that I learned throughout my career that I think might be valuable to other folks. So I figured we'd start off. I've been doing a lot of PowerShell at my current job lately, so figured I'd start with one of the kind of best improvements I've been able to make to a lot of the scripts that I write, which originally didn't, kind of stick out to me as a problem. But as I started kind of performance tuning some of these scripts that are working with larger amounts of data, I realized that I have been coming or going about, using arrays completely inefficiently for a number of years. So I'm just as guilty as what I'm going to show you guys today. And hopefully, you guys don't make the same mistakes that I have, and can start leveraging the better way to do things. So if we kind of take a look traditionally, right, storing any type of a large amount of data, you're usually going to have to create some sort of custom object or array. And generally when you create an empty array, you're kind of stuck with it, right? So if I try to add something to this array, say the number 1, it's going to tell me that it's essentially a fixed size. And that's kind of where the array's downfall was when it was originally built in PowerShell, right? So an array, when it's created, is essentially immutable. It cannot be removed. You cannot shrink it, grow it, do anything to it. It's a fixed size collection. And what that means is anytime you ever had to add, and this is kind of what most folks would do, if you needed to add something to your array, right, you would just basically do a plus equals and add your items to it and essentially go on about your way. And for the most part, right, in small scale scripts, right, where you're only dealing with, maybe a couple hundred, couple thousand items, that's perfectly fine because you'll probably never see the downfall of it until you start getting into these larger and larger data sets where this issue actually becomes noticeable. So, what you're actually doing, because these are fixed size collections, is anytime I call that plus equals, I'm essentially cloning that array and adding that item to it before I create it. So essentially, every time that you add to an array, you're essentially duplicating it in memory, adding an additional item to it so that it's fixed in its new size, and then deleting the old one. So as you can think, right, small scale, that's pretty quick and not super inefficient. But once you have to do that for an array that's got 10,000 items in it, every time you make a change to that, you're now cloning a 10,000 item array in memory just to add one more thing to it. So it becomes very, very inefficient quickly the more and more that you have to store inside of it. And you can kind of see that here. I wrote this kind of quick little loop that all it does is add integers to an array object. But if we run this array test with let's just say 100 items, right? It comes back pretty quickly, right? Took, fraction of a millisecond. But once we start getting into, say, 1,000 items, it seems like it's not taking very long. But very quickly, you would expect that, all right, well, if I do 10,000 items, it should take 10 times as long and come back just as fast. But you'll see if you run that now, it's actually taking closer to 3 seconds to run, right? And this problem will just increasingly get worse. Now, if I duplicate this, you'd say, all right, it should take about, 6 seconds. Well, it's going to take closer to 10 seconds, right? Because now it's having to duplicate close to 20,000 entries every time it wants to make a change. So you're literally going to get, worse performance the larger data sets you have to work with. So what is the answer to kind of fixing that? And this is kind of where, some of the newer collections in .NET come into play, where you can start using things like ArrayLists. So ArrayLists are super simple. So if we actually go and create a new ArrayList, it's just part of the systems.collections namespace. And if we go ahead and create a new ArrayList, what's nice about that is all the things that you wanted to do before, so be able to just add a number to an array, I can go ahead and do that, right? I can add that second number. Perfect. I can go and reference it by its index, just like I used to be able to do. I might even want to decrease or remove certain things from a particular index. I can do all those things. It's not going to restrict me in that fixed size issue that you had in regular arrays. And even better part about it is if I needed to, for whatever the reason might be, I can always take this array list and convert it back into an array and do whatever I need to. So it's very portable, it's very flexible, and it's super easy to use and code and change your existing scripts to leverage. But what's more important is if we actually go now and try to compare how this runs, right? And I go ahead and do that same array test that we did before, and I'll do it for that 20,000 items. So it's going to take that 10 seconds or roundabout for the array, but when it gets to doing the array list, you'll see that come back in almost a fraction of a second. So there you go. I didn't know if I saved the test. So if we rerun that again, we'll see the closer to 10-second entry, and then we'll see the fraction of a second for the array list test. Because, right, it's not having, there you go, 0.21 seconds. You're not having to duplicate that array every single time you want to add that nth plus item. So it becomes super efficient, and I've noticed in some of my larger scripts that pull down, like large mailboxes, or they pull down a large number of entries in an API response, that having to store all those things by basically cloning them and recreating them every time, I was able to get scripts that were taking like 10 minutes to run in 60 seconds. So definitely make sure that you're, if you have the ability, you have the latest version of PowerShell, and you can take advantage of ArrayLists to use them, because they're super, super useful, and they're super efficient. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there for those folks. Just one of the things I had noticed when kind of working through some of my older scripts and looking at ways to improve their performance, this was a very quick and easy win for some of those ones dealing with larger item sets. One of the things you'll notice that's a little bit different on the array test is when you add an array, it gives you the index number as the response. So if you don't want that and you want to treat it just like array worked, you can just do like a pipe to null. That way it doesn't spit that out. But just one of the things that is a little bit different than how the traditional array worked. So just want to do that quick and easy little snippet here. I'll kind of continually create some of these things as I come across them, but I just wanted to kind of get the first one out there. So if you have any suggestions on things you guys would like me to cover, or really anything in terms of what you'd like to see on this channel going forward, feel free to drop a comment, like and subscribe if you feel obligated or feel obliged. Whatever you'd like to do, doesn't matter to me. But anyway, have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon.